What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ring the Bell Philly Show, presented by SeatGeek. I am Christy Francesco. Joining me is Mr. Jason Kent, and it's a special occasion. You know why? Because it's time to rip someone. So I decided to call in the heavy gun, and that man is Dean Holzapple. Dean, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
It's been a little bit, but I knew he was going to be ready for this. So I'm like, you know what, Dean, you want to come on and have some fun shredding the Phillies offseason? He goes, Sure, let's go.
I wore my Dodgers hat just for this.
All right, so thank you, everybody. I mean, we didn't plan on having a show before the holidays. We were on earlier in the week, and I just figured that might be it, unless the Phillies made a signing. They made a signing. Which we're going to get to now. The Phillies signed Max Kepler to a one-year deal to presumably, according to Dave Dombrowski today, we're going to get to his quotes, to be the everyday left fielder. I'm going to go first to Jason on your thoughts on the deal, because based on your text messages and our phone call, not too happy. And then I'm going to go to Dean after that, and then we're going to get into a slew of things. We're just going to rapid fire on this offseason and what our expectations are going into spring training as of now. But for this second, Jason, what was your thoughts on Max Kepler and the one-year deal for $10 million?
Listen, I love it. You know, you sign a guy that's you never played left field, and we're going to sign him to be our everyday left fielder here. You know,
yeah,
I love the deal. You know, another left-handed guy or left-handed bat out there who now, you know, we have 3 outfielders that are platoon players. That's what we're going with now. I don't have money. I don't buy it. Buy it. You want to build a championship team, Middleton. Why aren't we spending? Why aren't we going and getting somebody else? You know, I'm tired of this crap. I'm tired. You see the Yankees, you see the Dodgers going out and getting better and adding players. You see the Mets adding players. These teams that just made the World Series, adding the big guns, and we're going to get Max Kepler and saying Middleton's preaching he's bringing a trophy back to Philadelphia. This is bull crap. Dombrowski has shit the bed since he's come here. He's done nothing of significance. He was brought in and everybody said, yo, he's going to kill your farm system. He's going to go get people. The dude's done dog shit. Last year brought in Witt. We did like it. Back end. This Kepler deal's I don't like it. There's other guys out there that you could have went and signed. You can't tell me you're trying to put a championship team together when you still have T1 Walker in this team, and your big sign so far is Max damn God Kepler. Come on. Man, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far, you know, the Phillies offseason is obviously incomplete in our eyes. You know, their 2 biggest moves were Jordan Romero, the reliever, again, a 1-year, you know, low risk, high reward type guy, and a 1-year deal on Max Kepler. You know, we hate coming on here and admitting when John is right, but, you know, Johnny Mac said this offseason might be full of 1-year deals. And so far, the only 2 they've made are 2 1-year deals. Dean, your thoughts on the Max Kepler deal, why this was done? Another left-handed bat to the lineup of a team that can't hit lefties except for Bryce. What was your thoughts on it?
I love that he's German.
He's a very assertive man.
So I have no idea who the fuck this guy is. So I just looked at his stats real fast. Wow. I had no idea they even signed this guy. Real talk. No idea this was happening. And I looked at his stats real fast, and he's okay. Cool. We signed the German Brandon Marsh.
It's
just, you know, it's just. Do you really want me to go off, or do you want me to just keep it short?
We're going to get there. We're going to get to the team, right. And don't worry, we're going to get there now, because you know you're wearing a hat of a team that looks at the luxury tax as okay, a nice little slap on the wrist. Who cares? Again, this is just a different thing, and I'm going to kind of go a little bit all around the place here because you know Jason and I have been talking here for the last couple weeks, either if it's you know in Gorilla or in our text messages on the phone on here. I mean, look, the spending was going to stop. This is a franchise historically that will have little spurts where they're going to sign guys for a lot of money, and then after a couple years, it just stops. And then it kind of just goes back to what we saw between 2012 and 2019 or 2020. And if you kind of look at what happened with the 2009, 10, 11 teams, they spent a lot of money to keep those teams together to try to get another championship in that window. And as soon as 11 ended, it was all blown to shreds, except for a couple guys.
But in defense, though, to Ruben Amaro Jr., he's openly stated that he tried to blow it up before that, but ownership didn't let him trade away those players.
And that makes total sense. I mean, they're selling out Citizens Bank Park every single home game. But, this is a team now that has, I have the list in front of me. Here, this is who they have, and they're at a $300 million payroll right now. So they've spent so freely in the last few off seasons, signing Bryce, Trey Turner, then Schwarber, Castellanos. They extended Zach Wheeler, a new contract for Aaron Nola. Christopher Sanchez got a new contract. Money hasn't been, a stumbling block, and the payroll, hasn't stopped the Phillies from improving every year since 2019. But I think it's a different story now. And Jason and I talked about this. The Phillies payroll is so high that, they're essentially right now, they're paying double for every player that they sign. So Kepler's 1-year deal for $10 million actually cost the Phillies nearly $20 million. And that's because the Phillies have already exceeded the third luxury tax threshold of $281 million. And that's when you pay a 92.5% penalty on every dollar of overage. So making the situation now even tighter, the Phillies are at approximately $299 million after the Kepler signing. So they're just $2 million below that fourth luxury tax threshold. Those penalty overages are at 110% of every dollar of the overage. And Dave Dombrowski said today in front of a media scrum announcing the Kepler deal that, everybody we sign is a major penalty and we have to be cognizant of that. So that led him to say, I would be surprised if we got into impactful free agent types of signings from an offensive perspective. So, Jason, what we've been talking about, what we feared, is now here. They're not spending any more money until Schwarber, Casty, and JT are off this roster. That's it.
And two of them, I think, are entering their last years, right?
Yes.
I know JT is
JT and Schwarber are both up. They're both up. But my bigger issue with that isn't so much because in my head, listen,
they'll keep them both probably.
But you suck it up for the year. Like, if my thought is JT should be going after this year. And Casty definitely. Or no, Schwarber, you may I don't know if you can afford Schwarber. He may get a big deal.
I think Schwarber's earned his money though, personally.
Yeah, but I don't want to bring him back at DH because I eventually want to get Bryce at DH, and I'd rather just get rid of him. But to me, it makes me
less
mad.
money, I'll bring him back.
You're okay, but it's going to be tough to replace the home runs. But it's a smack in the face when Dombrowski says that, because look at what you offered for Kyle Tucker. You're telling me you're so exceeded this luxury tax that you have an outfielder right now that can make this team drastically better, and you said we're going to offer Alec Boehm and Nick Castellanos to bring that dude in here.
It's embarrassment.
Who's going to get probably $400 million somewhere around there? But
where did he go again?
The Cubs,
yeah.
That's right, yeah.
And then so you're seeing that, and you're like, you could have paid like Casty or Schwarber's books off the books, JT's off the books. That's potentially, if you want to sign him, that's $40 million right there to clear up. But that tells me like now you're offering dog crap for an all-star caliber, and could be in the running for MVP type of guy. And that's what you're telling your fans, that you don't care, and we're just going to go spend $10 million on Max Kepler and not really make a significant offer for a guy like that. That tells me you don't know what you're doing. Like it bothers me very badly. Then it doesn't make sense what they're doing, how they're doing it.
Yeah. So basically, if the Phillies wanted to sign, let's just say a $20 million player right now, it would cost them almost $42 million just to do that. And then Dombrowski did say, he quoted, Well, I don't want to say it's a tight payroll in the sense that from an ownership perspective, I don't think I've ever gone to John Middleton or anything and him say, no, don't do something. But you still try to keep things in perspective. And I don't know what the exact payroll is, but we're probably over that $300 million threshold. So regardless of what he says there, he must obviously have some sort of directive from someone above him to say, look, this is kind of it. John's not going to say no, but this is probably the best we're going to do right now because they don't have the Steve Cohen money and they don't have the cojones of the Dodgers ownership, or let's just say the Red Sox ownership to go, or the Yankees. You know, two of the top three luxury tax destroyed teams right now are number one's the Dodgers, number three are the Yankees.
But Chris, with all of the damn, like I get the signings, but all of the damn trades that have happened for guys like Crochet, like Bellinger, I get, but like you're getting all of these trades where I get you're going to spend a little more, but you could do something. There's been so many moves there that you're not necessarily having to go out and sign Soto or go spend $200 million on Burns or Freed, but you could go get, you could have gotten a Tucker, you could have gotten a Bellinger who's decent enough deal, and you have an established guy there for the next couple of years. That's what bothers me even more is you're not even attempting to make any of those trades that are getting traded for dog shit.
Yeah. I agree.
But you mean to tell me that there's not a team out there that isn't willing to take Alec Bohm off the Phillies? I mean, he might be kind of a baby, but the dude hits close to 300 every year. He hits 20 to 30 home runs and drives in almost 100 RBIs. Yeah, and he's significantly improved his defensive capabilities last year. And nobody wants this guy.
Well, I don't want to get rid of him though.
I don't either. Like obviously it would have to be for the right deal, but
Dean's right. I mean, it seems like nobody's calling with a good offer for the guy. Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like they don't have any tradable pieces right now. They do, but not ones that they're willing to trade. They're not going to trade Schwarber.
They've given such bad contracts to players that they can't.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Trey Turner deserves to be on this team, and I've held that for 2 years now. Nobody's going to take that contract. That's a dog shit contract for a guy in decline. You know what I mean? Like that's ridiculous. And we're locked to that guy probably for most of his career.
Yeah, he's got 9 years left. So,
vibes, baby. It's all about vibes.
It's all about vibes.
It's all about vibes, man. Phillies cleats and headbands for everybody.
Kepler will play left field. The Phillies obviously will keep Castian right. They're going to try to play Kepler every single day. But again, he's never been a consistent hitter against lefties. Like I said right before we got on here, last season, just using last year as an example, Kepler only had 77 at-bats against lefties. He did hit 273, but over his career, he's a 220 hitter against left-handed pitching. So, again, it's going to be difficult to play him or Brandon Marsh every day, and it's going to be unwise to play them both against left-handed pitching. Mm-hmm. But I hate to say this, but the word of the day is going to be it's inexpensive, and that's what they're going for right now.
He hasn't even played close to 162 games in 8 years.
Yeah, I think the last
since 2018. So
that's the last time he played more than 135 games. It was 2018 was the last time. So it's a guy that has an injury history. But as of right now, man, like the right-handed platoon partners of Kepler and Marsh would be Rojas and Weston Wilson.
This guy's a Hall of Fame GM.
Oh man.
Yeah. So this is what we're doing going into this season. For right-handed pitching, our outfield options are Weston Wilson and Johan Rojas. And they have a $300 million payroll. And they don't have an outfield. Yeah. This is it's crazy. If that's the outfield mix,
barely a pitching staff.
If that's the outfield mix, they're gonna enter 2025 hoping almost everything goes right, and they're gonna need an internal improvement from every single hitter not named Schwarber or Bryce. And of course Dombrowski said I think we're as good Dombrowski said when asked if he felt this roster was better in 2024. He's like, I mean, we were pretty good last year at the end of the season. No, you weren't. I think we have a really good ball club. And if you look at what's left for the offseason, Dombrowski did say he wants to add more pitching, particularly a starter capable of shifting to the bullpen if needed. Well, you do have Ranger. The 2025 version of a guy like Spencer Turnbull, I guess they're really looking for.
Why not go after Sean Manaea?
Jason, you said that too.
He would be a good. I just don't know. Like he's been I don't know if that's going to take.
Yeah,
is his change going to take? Because he looked very good at the end of last year. He's a dude, but I just don't know if the change is going to keep. And if he signs here, he's going to suck. That's my problem.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I agree with you, but like you can't win without taking some risks, right? Like,
that's what we've been preaching here.
It's, you know what I mean?
Insane.
So it's just the same stuff. Like I think I'm going to go to a bunch of games this year, but man, this is going to be a bumpy year. I think.
That's our like the Dodgers and the Yankees aren't like, oh, we're going to take a couple of risks here. Yeah. They're like, yeah, let's go get the established, let's go get the studs. And that's my problem
with the Mets. Like I hate to give the Mets props, but like Steve Cohen came in and did exactly what Steinbrenner did when he bought the Yankees. Just spent a shit ton of money, but he spends in the right players.
I will say
the biggest problem with the Phillies. I don't think they spend them on the right players.
I will say, to me, the best example of what I want the Phillies to be right now is what the Yankees did this offseason. Mm-hmm. They went after the biggest fish in the sea. They offered him $760 million. He said no. Cashman and the Yankees didn't just sit on their hands and go, all right, well, we tried, so we're going to try to piece things together now and hope for the best. They went after it. They said, you know what? We'll allocate that money elsewhere.
Max
and
Fried,
spend less.
Who they trade for the closer?
Devin Williams, Milwaukee.
Yeah, Williams. They traded for Bellinger. I'm sure there's another deal or two up there.
And it was less than what Soto signed for, so they saved money.
They're not even close to what they would have spent.
That's what I'm saying.
And
insane. That was why I was always happy with the Phillies not doing it. But they didn't do anything. You did not improve. The Phillies team right now is not a better team going into this season than they were last season. Because we at this point we know what we know what Ranger is. He's not going to be that dude he was in the beginning. I think he kind of overextended. We know what he is. You don't have a 4. Is Sanchez going to be that dude? Can he still continue to develop?
I think,
but you have no hitters.
Yeah,
it's not a better team. You can't sit there and continually count on Schwarber hitting all these home runs every year. At some point, he's going to start cooling off. Bryce has already shown a little bit. Trey's starting to decline. Mm-hmm. Casty's not consistent. This team is not better than it was last year. Yeah. If you think that you're just a homer and you just don't know. They're not this team right now. Not win. They're too far. They're very far away from a World Series. Multiple pieces now.
So, all right. So, I mean, I disagree a little bit with that from a perspective of how the National League is right now. If the season starts tomorrow, Jay, I still think the Phillies would be regarded as a top 3 or 4 team in the NL. I mean, you got the Dodgers, Braves, and Mets. I still think as an overall roster, the Phillies are better.
But I don't see to me, I think that the gap between the Dodgers and the Braves and the Phillies is very wide. I think those teams. Yeah, that's my point. Like Braves, when you're looking at it,
yeah, you're right.
I think Braves and Dodgers are both still head and shoulders above the Phillies, and that's my point. Mets may have now caught up, and there's always the team. The Padres are always in that running.
Milwaukee. The Mets are probably going to re-sign Alonso too. So there's. I mean, I think the Mets have a better lineup than the Phillies. I do think the Phillies pitching is better because the Mets have probably lost Manaea, but they did sign somebody too. I can't remember who it is. But I think lineup wise, I think the Mets lineup is better than the Phillies.
So obviously the Phillies failed in the NLDS. They won 95 games last season. I mean, that would definitely get them in the playoffs in 2025, even without obviously, a megastar signing. The question really is what we talked about last year is whether this roster can compete in October with those teams. I don't know. I don't think they can as we stand here on December 20th. A lot's going to happen between now and October. So, when you look at those other teams, the Dodgers, Braves, and Mets, they've either improved, gotten healthier, which are the Braves, or both.
And
so
the Dodgers. The Dodgers got an entire pitching staff coming back next year.
They do.
Off
do.
the IL.
Yep. And, it all depends on who the hot hands are, as always. But let's kind of move into our outlook on this organization right now, Jay. And you've been
real quick. Why not go after a guy like Flaherty, who the Dodgers are probably not going to bring back? Offer the guy a 1 or 2 year deal. He wasn't making that much money.
No, I agree. I mean, look,
go after him. What
seems to be the kind of guy that Dombrowski might take a flyer on. I do believe that might be the kind of name that he goes after.
He's a perfect 3 or 4 guy to bring to this, and he's got an attitude too, which is what the Phillies absolutely need.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have all these pasty white guys just being like, shucks, I struck out. No, you need some fire in the belly of this team.
Oh shucks, I struck out. That's a great T-shirt.
You're welcome.
Yeah, oh shucks, I struck out.
So star right above you, blue star in the Philly font.
That's so good. All right, Jason, I'm going to ask you because this is something you and I have been like almost yelling at each other, not in a bad way, on the phone. This franchise, man, I'm worried we're getting to like that final step before what we got in 2012 and on. I felt like we're at that final little crack of the window and something's just going to burst where it's all just going to fall apart because I just feel like now the organization is almost internally, without telling us, regretting some of these massive deals that they've dished out. And now it's the fans' turn to suffer that, because it's going to have to go in some way. It's going to have to be retooled. Mm-hmm. So what is your outlook on this organization right now?
I really do think I think this is the last season. I agree with you. I don't see much. I don't know. It really depends. This organization has never been good at developing talent. I don't,
Correct.
And you go back 100 years. I don't care what, John says. I've watched with my eyes that they go through these spurts where they're good for a few years. You may get a guy, you sign Nola, who's not what, he's probably overpaid. Boehm's not what you thought he was. He's not the bag of goods you sold. Can Painter be that next star? Is Miller going to be a guy? I think those are the questions. Can they develop? And I just, from what I've seen from the Phillies, no. That's why, to me, I'd much rather trade them now and get guys, guy like Tucker, get those established stars, but they just don't do that. That's not the Phillies' MO. Dombrowski, I don't know what they're doing. I just don't believe it. They've shown they can't even build a roster correctly.
Yeah.
And so it's not bright. And I think we've talked about it before, a slow start, Topper could be going quick if this team doesn't look good. They were one of the worst teams. Like, listen, they were on pace for 116 wins through May.
Mm-hmm.
So this team, the second half of the season, was a very, very, very bad baseball team. I get it. We've said it a million times. The whole year counts. We can't look at the 95 win record when, I get you crushed April, May, but you suck the rest of the goddamn year.
Yeah.
So I can't come in there. I can't come in here and say I'm going to be excited for this year when the last I saw of you guys was shit in the bed, and we haven't done anything to really improve. You're talking about maybe moving Bryce back to the outfield after you moved him in. And to your point, the way Bryce plays, man, he plays hard.
Yeah.
Something to him. If you get a Bryce injury, that season, your season's over.
Yeah.
The next move for Bryce Harper, Phillies, if any of you listen to this, is designated hitter.
No, that's what you got to let Schwarber walk. That's why you have to let Schwarber walk.
That's exactly what they should do. And again, I like Kyle Schwarber a lot, but I don't want to say you're stuck with Bryce. You're stuck with Bryce for at least 6 more years, right? And he doesn't seem like he wants to go anywhere. So fortunately, Kyle Schwarber, you got to go unless you're willing to take a pay cut, in my opinion. Because he's getting up there too. He's not a young guy. We're not getting him 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And Bryce has got to go to DH. Sorry, Bryce, you don't get to play any action. You're the biggest asset on this team. You got to be protected.
Schwarber will be 32 March 5th.
I mean, it's not. Maybe if he's willing to take 2 years, $30 million. I would,
or even even I would like a Rhys Hoskins, 2 years, $36 million, 18 a year.
I want Bryce at DH. I don't want.
I mean, that's
I'm
the
sorry.
thing. Yeah, you gotta.
I don't.
want
That's my
Bryce.
issue. Is I don't want. I love Schwarber. Listen, I've grown fond of him. It's not. I don't hate Schwarber. I hate Topper for not putting him at DH. And I'm gonna rip Topper. I'm back on that train again this year. I'm back. Let's get that. Let's get him. That's my issue. It's not. I don't hate Schwarber. I hate Topper for it. But
yeah,
you gotta get Harper as. He's a detriment to himself. So you got to put him in the best situation to stay healthy all year, and that's DH.
Yeah, going back to what you guys were talking about this upcoming season, I still think that there's a good chance that there'll be a wild card team because they're a talented team, but it's got to be. You can't start as hot as you did last year because then you're just going to fall flat and get embarrassed in the playoffs. But if you could be consistent, you probably make it. But it's either going to be that or that it's going to completely explode. And, because JT is regressing. And Turner is very inconsistent and Bohm can disappear. And obviously we know Casty can be a black hole sometimes. But you got to let some of these guys walk and never do this again. You never overpay for players. Stop bringing in Bryce's boys to get paid.
No, that's not the issue. Is that it's not so much that.
Well, if you overpay for players, you can't move them. Like
you overplay, like the Trey Turner deal was but the problem was when you already signed Bryce Harper, you went out and you signed Casty and Schwarber in the same offseason when you didn't have the room for them. That was the issue. You signed all and it was a blessing in disguise, the Hoskins injury, because you're able to move Bryce out of the outfield.
Well, that was the season after, though. Reese got hurt the following season.
But he was able, so that you're able to do a little bit, but they really killed themselves in terms of just the roster construction thing. It really, they shit the bed there.
Well, this is what happens when you try to go all in, but you don't go all the way in. Like they went all in with offense and like halfway in with pitching. And it didn't work out, and then they just got stuck with a bunch of bad contracts. And then this is kind of what it's kind of the equivalent of what happened with the Rams in the NFL, except for they won a Super Bowl. They went all in, traded a bunch of draft picks away, gave a bunch of awful contracts to everybody, and they've been like a pretty mediocre team since they won that Super Bowl. So this is kind of what happened with the Phillies. They just kind of their guys are aging, their bat speed might not be, their leg kick might be off a little bit, which happens a lot with JT, it seems, but it's kind of what's going on.
I will say about JT, and this might be proof that you have to limit his games. He only played 99 games last year because, again, he had that knee injury. He was out for a little bit. I mean, he still ended the season hitting 266. So that might tell you.
Man. I love JT. I'm a big fan of JT, and I would love to see him have a good season.
But again, he's got to catch.
Be a guy.
Yeah.
He needs to be a guy. If you're going to bring him back, it's got to be on small deals, right? Like I could see the Phillies being like, we can't let this guy play for another team, but it's got to be like 1 year, 2 years, smaller salary and stuff like that. Maybe start to get a backup to him, not named Garrett Stubbs.
Right. To me, and I think Jay, you and I have said this for a couple years now, and just Topper's just not the kind of guy who's going to be assertive whatsoever.
No.
This is a guy that for the last 2 or 3 years should have been catching a maximum of 115, 120 games.
Agreed.
Because he can be such an offensive threat, but by the time August, September comes and it's so hot, he's toast.
Yeah.
And I can't blame the guy. He's doing what he's told. He's going out there and playing. No one's telling him to stop. That's the problem.
And he wants to as well. Like it's not like he doesn't want to do it. Yeah.
Right.
But he should be getting like that third day off, that fourth day off.
Yeah.
Like every single week he should be getting
It's coming this year. I mean, according to Topper, it's going to happen this year. He's going to get an extra day off per week. Wow. But then again, you signed Garrett Stubbs. I don't understand where this team is.
Marchand can't stay healthy, so that's another issue because I like Brad Marchand, actually.
Yeah.
Not Brad. Brad, right?
Brad Marchand for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, him. Yeah, him. I knew it was wrong when I said I can't think of his first name.
But look, by March 18th, JT is going to be turning 34 years old. So, you gotta get to a point where you got to preserve the guy who just had knee surgery again this year. But Jay, as we're talking here as if it sucks because I want to be honest with everybody. If somebody has a gun to my head right now, they're going to say how many wins for the Phillies. I say immediately, I'm going to say 93. I think 93 gets you into the playoffs. You're not going to win a division with 93 wins, but I do think you get that first or second wild card spot. And again, we say all the time, if we get in,
I don't know if it
can
might,
happen.
they could get second or third, but I don't think it can. I disagree because I see the top tier teams, and the thing, what is most common with most of the recent World Series champions, and I think it's for all World Series champions, is the main talent. A lot of their talent is homegrown. This Phillies team, your biggest stars are Bohm and Nola that are homegrown, and they're not studs. When you look at the Dodgers and their World Series teams, they have a lot of studs that were homegrown. The Yankees, when they made it, they had a lot of guys that are their guys. The Phillies can't develop talent, and that's the issue, is because their guys, the guys that they're bringing up, aren't good enough, and they can't go there. And I get it. It's who's hot in October, and I've said it a million times. But at the end of the day, I do think the talented of the other teams that just have more talent than us will rise, just like they did in 22. We had an opportunity. Yeah. Houston was better, but they were a better team.
It's going to be tough, I think, for them to get in because you got at least the Braves. You got to think the Braves and the Mets are both going to make the playoffs, division wildcard win or whatever. And then the Dodgers and the Padres, same thing. So you're really playing for that last wild card spot for the most part. And that's, you never know who's going to get hot in the Central. Could be the Cubs, could be the Cardinals, because they always just pop up out of nowhere and go.
Milwaukee.
Hey, Milwaukee's probably going to win the division. So
yeah.
But you never know. You never know with any other team. I mean, it's baseball. The Marlins could all of a sudden decide, hey, we're going to win 90 games and win a World Series because they've made the playoffs 3 times, and 2 of the times they won a World Series.
So before we get to my final question about what I think maybe the plan is for this team moving forward, Dean and Jay, all 3 of us, contrary to what probably people think, because everyone's so used to winning baseball, all 3 of us have been to that Citizens Bank Park for 10, 15, 20, 30 games a year when there was 7,000 to 8,000 people in that ballpark and no one cared.
And it was awesome.
And it was ballroom, bro.
I loved it. I loved it. Cheap tickets, you sit anywhere.
Are both of you kind of fearing that we might only be a year or 2 away from something like that? Or is that completely just overblowing it? Because we went in 2011.
Well, are you talking like 18, 17, 16? Because no, I don't think
I'm talking about like 75 to 85 win teams.
Because you still have unless Turner and Harper say we're okay to trade or no trade clause,
right?
And go. I find it hard to believe that you're going to have those 2. Yeah, that you're going to have those 2 dudes, and at least not try to sign some other talent to try to get a win. Now, if they decide to say, hey, we're okay going, then it's going to get ugly. But as long as they're here, I find it hard to believe that Middleton's going to allow them to look that bad.
And Dean, before you answer, I will give Dean credit. Dean, you said on this show when we first started, during that 22 run, you did say even then, in 3, 4, 5 years from 22, so we're getting 2 years from now or so, depending on where this team is, Dean, out of your mouth, you said, there will come a time that Bryce goes to management and says, I'm ready to go to a team that can win the World Series now.
Yeah,
and that could happen. Yeah, and that could happen at any moment.
Yeah, I think it depends on maybe not this season because they're going to bring everybody back, I would assume. But maybe after next season, probably, because more than likely there's a good chance that guys like JT and Kyle will be gone, and maybe they smarten up and give like reasonable contracts to solid players to come in and fill gaps, and they try it again. But you look at a guy like Bryce Harper. I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, you're just going to rot your career away, and with it's a term I really started to use a lot, but you're playing for a poverty franchise, dude. Like, you really going to just play the rest of your career here and not win a World Series? You're not going to be like in 4 years be like, yo, get me on the Yankees or the Dodgers because I need a ring to cement my legacy in baseball history. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
The dude grew up a Yankees fan. You know what I mean? And
he's not shaving, bro.
Huh? Yeah,
He's not shaving.
He
He's
did
too
for a little
gorgeous,
bit, and he looked weird.
But
But
all right, that's a great point.
That's just how I feel. Like that's how I would be as a player. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to the Yankees because I don't want to shave my beard. But like, if I'm at that point where I'm like, all right, listen, I'm like punching my ticket to Cooperstown, but I want that
he's
ring.
going to not finish his career.
I
have no doubt that he does not finish his career here. I don't see him retiring as a Philly.
If they win a ring somehow,
okay.
If they win, he's never leaving.
But that window is like, dude, it's like cracked on a blustery fall day. Like there's like not much space left, and if it's got to be the next like 2 seasons where he's got to be like, listen, you got to shit or go off the pot because I came here to try to win a World Series. You guys, you pitched this to me, and we're regressing back to where it was when I first got here. 500 team.
Yeah. My last question here, and this is the predicament I feel like the Phillies are in, guys. And Jay, you and I talked about this the other night, and let me see if I can word this correctly. I think the Phillies have put themselves in a spot where if they're doing really good like they did last year, going into the All-Star break to the trade deadline, maybe they set themselves up to make a really big move. However, let's just say the opposite happens this past year and they go into the trade deadline next year. Do they start trading off Castellanos? Do they trade Schwarber? Do they start listening on guys like Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola? Like, they're in a predicament now where
about it.
They're like on both ends of the spectrum, and this is tough.
They're all pieces that could help a team win a World Series. Even as hot and cold as Castellanos is, if you're a team, i.e. like the Padres, who are a really good team from top to bottom, a good manager, and they're like, hey, we need like another bat. All right, what do you want for Nick Castellanos? You know what I mean? Because he's only, he could turn into Nick from 2 years ago, but you know what I mean? Like in theory, that's a guy they bring in. He could be a off the bench guy or starter. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if this team's like 15 games under 500 going in the All-Star break, I would be shocked if they're not sellers in some sort of sense. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Look for the future.
But
yeah. I mean,
there's a lot of big free agents next year. So if you are, and I don't think you're not selling to me, if you can sell it to Bryce, listen, let's get a couple of these guys. If we can unload a Casty at that point, maybe Casty has a hot first half and you're able to unload him, that long term, and you just say cut Walker. We can just cut him.
Listen,
but you get rid of him. There's some guys you got to look at rebuilding the next year and the next offseason. I think it's a perfect opportunity.
And I've said this before already, what my ideal move is for this franchise after this season. I'm telling you, and I know it's not crazy because the Phillies would, they have proven they will spend. If you can somehow dump the contracts of Casty, JT, and Schwarber and get Taijuan out of here, I think the first move that you do is you pay Vladdy Jr., and you move him to DH or play first base, and you swap him out with Harper. That's that right-handed power bat that you need in that lineup, and I think that's the ideal move for this franchise.
I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect. You get a bunch of salary off the books. You give him $450 million, and there's your right-handed power bat at Citizens Bank Park. I mean, and you can't beat it, but. Jay, like that's the thing. If you get to the trade deadline, though, Jay, you're 4 games out of the wild card. What do you do?
I think if you can unload the Casty contract, it's something like the guy because JT and Schwarber are both, so if unloading them doesn't matter as much. If you can get rid of that, if you think, if you get the right offer for somebody, like they want to throw up a Nola or a Wheeler, if you get the right offer. Then you look at free agency the next year because you still you're probably going to keep Turner, Harper. You look to retool and get some younger dudes, like you said. Vladdy's 25. Tucker's a young guy. There's other of those young dudes that you can retool with later down the road. So I'm not opposed. If you're not looking good, and I get they can get hot like they did in 22 and make it. But if you're not looking good, I am not opposed to blowing it up and understanding the long game and making myself better, go for the future and getting a little bit younger. I'm not opposed to that at all.
I agree. I agree totally. All right, so that wraps us up. Basically, what we're trying to say is here, y'all, is we are 3 Phillies fans who are absolutely disgusted with this offseason as it stands right now. And unfortunately, it's not, I don't see it getting any better. This is what it is now. You have a $300 million payroll. They're not going to spend any more money. We tried telling you that this was coming, and everyone calls us negative, and, we don't love this team. No. It's been watching this team every day for 30 plus years and knowing how these little spurts work. Mm-hmm. And this is the spurt that we're getting to, and it's not a good one. You just got to hope that something happens where, this roster, which is a very formidable roster, somehow rights the wrongs of the last 2 years. Can they do it? I don't know. Am I hopeful? Well, yeah. Am I confident? No. So yeah, that's how I feel about this team. All right. So again, unless anything else happens, this is it probably until February. So who knows?
This is it until Pete Alonso signs somewhere, and then we're back on here going, how come the Phillies couldn't go in for Pete Alonso?
No.
What the hell's their fucking problem?
The good thing is, I'm not sure if Dean remembers, Dean did agree that during the season, he will be on more often. He's not going to join us all the time because Dean is a busy guy. He does other things. But Dean is somebody we really like having on the show for where Jason used to punch himself in the face when Dean was on. Now Jason's like, can we just have Dean on? So that's where we're at here. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications when we're going live again. So for Dean and Jason, I am Christy Francesco. Hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, a wonderful New Year. Be safe, have fun. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with the Phils between now and February? I'm assuming nothing at all. But until that happens, we'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.